Live here at Citizen Television. The show is smoking. Twitter is on fire with Uasin Gishu Women's Rep Gladys the Boss is in the house and nominated Member of Parliament Jennifer Shamala. Wow, it's getting smoky in here. But let me ask you, Boss, 2013, I just saw pictures the other day and I said to myself, my goodness, what a difference 7 years makes. You were performing your duties as Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, and you were basically, at the inauguration, you were the one leading both the President and the Deputy into their new roles. You were the one on stage, on the podium. 7 years later, are you disappointed with what's happened?
I remember 2013, and it was a great moment. And even though I was not a politician then, I was simply performing my ceremonial role, but I could see the way the country was full of hope. I mean, I even remember the stadium, the moment Uhuru said, "I, Uhuru," and they went crazy. And I had to stop them and say, I've got to swear him in by 2 o'clock. That's how excited Kenyans were. That's how much they believed in Uhuru Kenyatta. And then fast track to 2017, I joined politics. And I was part of Mbele Iko Sawa team when we went for the second elections. I remember dancing on stage, Uhuru Ruto, Tano Tena. I mean, I believed in the team. And because in the 5 years between 2013 and coming to 2017, and hence the reason I even joined Jubilee, I decided to go when I decided to go into politics, I remember, I mean, there was the talk, the road network increased, the SGR took off, the electricity, last mile electricity, hospitals were being built in counties, and things were amazing, and I truly still believed that they were the right team for Kenya, but something went wrong after the handshake.
What?
I still remember attending a meeting when the first discussions on the Big Four were, and I was charged up because they talked about infrastructure, they talked about manufacturing, and they talked about affordable housing, which was not just about building houses, about job creation. Because the moment when you need plumbers, you need people to supply the stones. So it was going to churn the economy. They were going to create 1,000 jobs in I don't know how long. And then there was the universal healthcare, because our biggest crisis when we go to our villages, almost every other person you meet has someone in hospital and they can't pay the hospital bill. There are people who die because they cannot pay the hospital bill. So I believed in the Big Four. Now that I've seen, the Big Four was shelved and all we talked about is the BBI. The BBI replaced the Big Four. Last week I was in Uasin Gishu. I spoke to the doctors. They were scheduled to have a strike on Monday, and I told them, what is the problem? Can't we resolve this? You know what the doctor said to me? We get one N95 mask, which we use for 2 weeks. They said we have no PPEs. I said, why? They said the PPEs are in KEMSA, but they cannot be dispatched to the counties because the KEMSA cannot give it to the counties for free, because the counties have to pay. The money had not been sent to the counties. I still remember, and I want you to look for the clip, when Mutahi Kagwe himself said that because there is a delay in the money being sent, we are even saying, why send the money to the counties? Why don't you send it directly to KEMSA? 3 weeks later, that has still not happened. And I was talking to one of the doctors, he's my nephew, and he basically told me, Gladys, it's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And he says that so the doctors, and for me that was a painful thing, we have our young doctors, first of all, who are actually treating patients. They do 72-hour shifts because they have like 5 people. And there have been cases, and some of them have said it, that when somebody has fallen, a doctor has been found to have COVID and is asymptomatic, they are continuing to treat patients because there's no one else. We are asking, as we are talking about BBI, yes, why it is not a priority at the moment. People are dying. I know that there were children in a school in Kisumu where 4 children died and 2 teachers ended up in ICU. So that is my disappointment. How irresponsible can I be as a leader if I begin to go to a no campaign and on a referendum that is unnecessary when people are dying, when our doctors do not have basic protective gear, when even NHIF is not paying for the county doctors when they fall sick with COVID.
Okay.
They have no insurance cover. So so when you think of it, that is so painful that if I started going to a no campaign, what would history tell me? That people were dying and I was just obsessed with my own political agendas? I think it is wrong. It is something that sits very badly. And this, I'm not talking on behalf of anyone. I'm talking on my own behalf. My conscience cannot let me run around in a no campaign without, when our doctors are dying, our children are dying, our families are dying. And let me tell you, there are many people in the villages who are dying and we don't even know it's COVID.
But you talk about you talk about irresponsible leaders. Hold on, Jennifer, 1 second. About the rallies that your side of Jubilee was holding until the president banned public rallies. Wasn't that irresponsible? Going to a KEMSA or going to markets here and there, holding rallies, people no mask, people crowding around it. Wasn't that irresponsible? You see, up to now, people still go to church, the children are in school, activities were still ongoing at that time. Of course, the rules that had been put at that time were being followed, that people should wear masks, that except like when I'm social distancing with you now. So that is something we can inculcate our people, that they should be careful. And I've been impressed that recently when you go to places, people are wearing their masks, people are more conscious about it. But you must remember that when you go into those crowds, what you should encourage is that everybody does wear a mask. All right, Jennifer's dying to jump in here. Okay, what I'm getting from the boss is that 2018, March 9th, handshake, that ruined everything. That's what she's saying.
Yes, I don't know what ruined everything. I keep on saying time and time again that maybe I should repeat it. In 2007, we were in the Kibaki administration, leaps and bounds. Our economy was growing by 2 digits. We go to post-election violence, everything comes to a standstill. You go to 2017, 2018, we were in parliament together. She saw how toxic it was. The one side had they were boycotted parliament, there were constant demonstrations. We lost 50 billion in internal revenue collections. We lost 150 billion from potential investors. Yes, I said all that.
Fast forward to March 9, 2018.
Now, when you say everything was lost, you have 2 leaders who came together for a handshake, representatives, one of the opposition and one at the head of Jubilee, and said, let's have a handshake and let's talk and let's find out what it is that bedevils us come the election cycle and how are we going to resolve it. So I'm not quite certain when my friend Gladys says everything was lost. On another point that Gladys said is, how can we be having a referendum during a pandemic? Let us not forget that Malawi has had an election, they did not call it off. Tanzania has had an election, they did not call it off. The United States, with over 250,000 deaths,
280 now.
280 years, has had an election. So are we, in as much as life must go on, are we going to come to a standstill and be frozen in COVID-19? I don't think so.
Boss, you want to jump in?
Yes, I think when you talk about those elections in the US and Canada and the other countries, those elections were like presidential elections. The term of the president was over. What we are saying is that the referendum, we can hold necessary, absolutely necessary elections, but we don't have to hold an unnecessary election. Hence the reason why we said, if all is lost and this referendum must happen, then let us have it in 2022. Then that way, you're not letting people out on a campaign and then on a campaign again.
Jennifer, real quick, you're in a rush. You people have like a timeline. You know, you want to have a referendum.
Yes, of course we have a timeline.
What's the rush?
Timeline is the next election. That is the timeline. Are we going to go into another election cycle of violence? There is a timeline. That is the rush. Having said that, again, I want to respond to something that Honorable Gladys Boschele brought up, where she talked about, I think, did you mention the fact that on the ground your people are not for the for the...
They could have gone no.
They could have gone no. But they could have gone no. I don't know if that's the mood on the ground in the Rift Valley, but the only reason they would be going no is maybe perhaps they see, because you said what went wrong with this BBI, what went wrong
with the
in March 2017. I don't think anything happened to the relationship between the president and the deputy president. I think that there were issues about the diluting of the presidential system and going into a more all-inclusive system and a parliamentary system. I think those are the issues, and it may not necessarily be the leadership at the top, because the beneficiaries of those leaders are the ones who push you and say this is the wrong thing to do, because they become the ultimate beneficiaries, the people closest to power.
Boss, let me ask you this. You were at Bomas, right? You were at Bomas, and the president...
No, I wasn't at Bomas. I didn't get an invite.
I was.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Neither was I invited to Naivasha, even though I begged to be invited. I really wanted to be invited, and I wasn't.
Did you at any point submit your views, your viewpoint about the BBI?
Yes.
Issue?
The Kenya Women Parliamentary Association did present their views in Uasin Gishu. When we heard that they were at some fancy hotel, I remember because we'd had in advance, and we managed to have the farmers and the milk farmers to be able to give their views. So I did mobilize people to give their views. So when people say we didn't give our views, we gave our views. But I don't remember any Kenyan anywhere and up to today saying that we want 160 members of parliament plus, surely. Yeah. Have you ever had a Kenyan saying they want extra MPs? No. In fact, they don't want extra MPs.
That is too bloated, by the way. I'll get back.
So where did they get that proposal? Where did that proposal come from? So I think let's be honest with ourselves. They went out to get their views, but and those are some things we asked to interrogate. We want to see the minutes where Kenyans say we are happy with 650 members of parliament. And I'll tell you that when you speak to people on the ground, I know that immediately the signature started. I was at a church event, and people said, we don't know what to do. The chiefs are telling us, if you come to ask for those letters for identity card and so on, the chief tells you, lazima uweke sahi kwa hii kitabu. And if you look at those signatures, the way when they are collected, it says, I have read, I have been explained to, and I have understood, and I agree. It's assumed. Is that you have already read the document by the time you give your signature. We know that there are no copies out there. So how is it, who read it? At all. So and that's one of the things is it angers people. In fact, the reaction of my own constituents was like, let's go no. And I was hard pressed to tell them, no, maybe we still have an opportunity to interrogate this document. So we are trying to, because they can see it's clearly forced. So don't assume that Kenyans are not very aware of what is going on. They could see, because they could see the BBI went on and suddenly the signatures are being collected. Yes, it is easy to get 5 million signatures if you are using the county commissioner. I also want you to pick the clip of the signature launch in Nakuru. I think one of the county commissioners or one of those commissioners was speaking. And I still remember that clip because it was raining and somebody was holding the umbrella for him. And I think it was the one that Lee Kinyanjui and the others were. He told people, do you want to be burying your children? If you don't want to be burying your children, then you should sign this document. First of all, that is such misleading information and inflammatory information. There is nothing in that document that will change Kenyans overnight and say that we will never have competitive and divisive politics. And let me tell you, the nature of elections is that it is divisive and it is competitive.
But it doesn't.
The only difference is the division and the competitiveness ends the time the electioneering period ends. And when somebody concedes, that is why it's a gentlemanly thing to concede, and the story ends, and after that, the president becomes the president of all Kenyans.
Yeah, but you know, guys, that's wishful thinking. Huh? This is Africa. You know, this is nobody.
And that's why we said devolution is a beautiful thing. In fact, if we empower devolution very well, it will reach a point where it won't matter who is the president, because the president cannot take away the resources that is supposed to be in the counties. That one, it is not. He has no power whatsoever. So it does not matter who's president.
I was going to tell you about Bomas. You were there.
Yes, I was.
The president alluded to his deputy. When he says, yes, we were all going on that same path. We're all on the same vision.
Yes.
It's like a 4x100 meter relay where you pass the baton to the next guy and then the next guy and the next guy. And as he was going forward to pass the baton, he saw the deputy president running in the opposite direction.
Please allow me to answer that.
Okay.
You know, I come from the athletic world.
You are the home of champions.
Yes, the city of champions and the source of the champions. Let me tell you, in relay, there is, in fact, that was the wrong analogy to use, because now it works with what we are saying. In relay, you have what you call the 20-meter takeover zone, which means 10 meters back or 10 meters forward. The athlete is supposed to take the baton on flight, not when they are stationary.
Yeah, on flight, not running backwards.
Go on, finish your point.
I have watched enough relays. You do not run backwards to collect the baton. You start running and you have your hand outstretched, yes? But what the president
Jennifer's not understood, when the takeover zone is 10 meters forward and 10 meters backward, which means you can move back up to 10 meters.
All right.
And then
start your
running. Yes. So it is that is. So first of all, let's not use that analogy. It's the wrong analogy.
I don't think that's what the president said. He didn't say we were in the 10 meters. He said he was running in the opposite direction.
But that's a good point.
But that's also an important point.
No, I think maybe we better look for a better idea. And let me ask. The thing is, the president, when he was running, he ran in 2002, and he lost. He didn't stop political activity. He participated as opposing the 2005 referendum. Did Kibaki begrudge him the decision to do that? No, because that is the nature of politics. People don't necessarily have to agree with you, and many of them.
But he was the leader of official opposition.
Yes, he was.
Let's not ever forget that. He was the leader of the official opposition.
But it was not only the leaders of official opposition that joined the 2005. It included people that had actually been elected together with Kibaki. It was included people who were part of, was it called the Pentagon?
Right.
Yes. So it was, so people, people shift. Yes. When it doesn't mean that once I take a certain political position, I'm stuck to it. When I see something is going wrong, I am entitled to disagree with it. And so this is happening in our history. So why do we make it look like it is so odd now?
But if I may, Gladys is suggesting that the deputy president shifted. And if he did shift, which I haven't...
That is not my suggestion. Those are your words.
I could be wrong.
You're wrong.
Shifted out.
No,
he hasn't shifted. He's still the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Let us remember Uhuru was in the government and he was being opposition. Right. So the point is, if you shift, and when you shift, you then either resign or you state yourself as opposition. Yes, this is the honourable thing to do.
I think it would be unfair.
I'm not saying it.
Please let us not refer to the deputy president, because I am not holding his brief, and I have not said he has shifted. So please do not use that. I said people shift. I have shifted. I am talking about myself.
All right, then I take it back.
Yes.
But so you are in the opposition. Since you have shifted, you're in the opposition. So the honourable thing to do in most countries, if you
first of all, I've not said I'm in the opposition. I have said on my views
on the BBI.
On the BBI.
Okay. Right,
the moment, in fact, if you remember, I was greatly opposed to the BBI. And I used to say, and check my quotes, I would say, BBI is an illegality insofar as it will become a constitutional amendment process. When BBI came, I was back in this studio, and I said, after reading it, I have no objection. In fact, I remember people were telling me, but you objected. I said, no. I had told you people what I was worried it will be. Now that it is just the book of lamentations, if it's saying Kenyans are insecure, Kenyans have no jobs, I have no problem with that. So I said, I agree. I hope then we are now going to do administrative interventions to resolve the problem. But it has mutated until it produced a constitutional amendment bill. Then we were taken by surprise.
Okay, referendum next year, yes, no?
I think definitely in accordance with the timelines, and why not? Like I said, is everything going to come to a standstill? We have an election in 2022, all the more need for a referendum and to make our decisions going forward of what 2022.
Boss, you don't agree?
You know, if they can force another referendum if they want, that is. I mean, because everyone says there must be a referendum. In fact, I've had some leaders saying which time, yet that is the job of IEBC. IEBC decides on the timeline according to the Constitution of when the referendum will happen. And remember, we've had this challenge before. Under Kibaki, he supported a certain draft, and he promised that when he becomes president, he is going to ensure that the Constitution is passed. In 2005, he went against the will of the Kenyans and produced something called the Kilifi draft. You know, Kenyans are forgetting. What did Kenyans do? They rejected it. And so, when somebody says, we'll have a referendum, I hope you're not assuming you will win.
No.
By the way,
absolutely
because
not.
ultimately,
because
for me,
because when I say we will have a referendum, but we don't say, because you're right, in 2005, the government did lose.
I'd like to finish my sentence. Yeah. That is why, as a leader, I will try as much as possible to propose some amendments, correct some issues, and so on. Save the independence of the judiciary, something we fought for so many years. I have no problem. But should it go to a referendum, by that time, I will not have any input. Because ultimately, the votes of leaders are less than 10,000. I am telling you, it is the 20+ million Kenyans who will eventually vote. It is the voters, 60% of the voters are young people who have no jobs. Nobody understands. You go to the entire South Coast and the hotels closed. You go to, when you think even of the curfew only, the economic impact of the curfew, people who are working, there were people employed for night shift and day shift. Some places even had 3 shifts if you are 24 hours. Do you know how many people have lost their jobs? There were people who were supplying food to schools. They lost their jobs. Today, I have seen firsthand that people are unable to make ends meet. So the pain of Kenyans, the suffering that they are going through economically, I am telling you, you go and push a referendum on them, they will wonder if you're actually thinking about them.
By the way, that phenomena is global, huh? Jobs being lost.
I mean, it's not just alien to Kenya.
Okay, but
so is curfew. And let me say
let me finish the sentence on Jeff.
Be able to contribute
because I need to respond to what Jeff is saying. The pandemic is global.
Yeah, you can't blame.
Remember, let's give the example of America. In America, if you don't have a job, you get unemployment insurance. If you are a single mother without a job, you will live in welfare housing. You will get food stamps to be able to go to the supermarket that any income earning person.
That to us.
So please don't compare America and don't compare with Europe. People are actually being supported by the government to survive. Companies that had closed are being given resources. So in Kenya, we have even been told the National Hospital Insurance Fund, who have not stopped taking collections from us, are refusing to pay for our doctors to be treated for COVID. That is completely unacceptable.
Go on.
First of all, and the reality is, and that is what the BBI wants to address, a multi-ethnic democracy. And a democracy where, I didn't interrupt you, and you went on for at least 10 minutes, so let me finish. So a multi-ethnic democracy, a system where you have empowered it is entrenched the devolution. You raise the percentages of what devolved governments are going to get. To say that young people have no jobs, so they're not going to vote, unfortunately, that is not the standard or the baseline for us to use. Yes, and yes, I want to agree with you. There has been a loss of jobs. It has been a pandemic. We are in a warlike situation, and again, I will state and continue to state that we cannot say that everything will come to a standstill. And comparing Kenya to the United States, the country that went through a civil war, remember? And the reason for going through the civil war, what I told you, was the United States fighting the Confederates was because of the issue of the abolition of slavery.
Correct.
Yes? So,
okay.
give me in South Africa, we have not, and that's where we want to reach. We're not saying we cannot reach there, but we definitely don't want a welfare state where people stay at home and get paid with no jobs. We want to create jobs. And the other thing about the BBI, let me explain something. All things are not just subjected to a referendum. There is a policy and a legislative framework. For example, empowering small and micro industries. You know, there's tax breaks. So there is frameworks. There's not just the referendum. There is the referendum. There is giving life to policy through legislation, which is going to be done through Parliament. So it's not just about the referendum.
All Kenyans think about it as a referendum.
Yes,
and
it's
after
not
that, it's
just
elections.
about the referendum.
Okay, boss, you made a really important point a moment ago when you said 15 years ago we had that Kilifi draft. 15 years.
Yes.
Are we that myopic that we forget 2005 was, you know,
and that was the president pushing it.
Right.
And he lost.
Are we that myopic? Are we that short-sighted?
Are we myopic about
as
what?
Kenyan?
We 2005.
Yes. And
there was a
referendum,
and it was lost. It was the Wako draft, if I remember. They called it the Wako draft. 207, we go to...
Kilifi stroke Wako.
Yeah, I mean, colloquially, 207, we have another referendum. Was it 207? No. We had the 2010.
2010.
2010 was the
Constitution.
But that's when we promulgated the Constitution. But and then we have, then there was an election. 207, we have an election. And I gave that, what happened in 2007. We have the post-election violence. What unifies the entire country into going to another referendum? What was the catalyst for the 2010 Constitution? Was not 205. It was the post-election violence of 207, 208. That is what brought us, really, we were on the brink of collapsing as a country.
Are we on the brink now?
Yeah, okay. If you see the situation that was there before the 2010 Constitution, it was extremely different. Remember, the judiciary was independent. The president used to appoint all the judges. There was no JSC. If you look at, we never had Equality and Gender Commission. We did not have a national cohesion and integration. That's why we had the problems in 2007. Those things were lacking. But it was not even that Kenyans had asked for those in 2007. They had asked for them 20 years before. When we put in the Constitution the issue of fair trial, fair administrative action, the fact that you cannot be held for more than 24 hours without being presented to court, it was Raila Odinga who fought for it, because he suffered the issue of being arrested at night, taken to different police stations, and his family wouldn't know where he goes, and they could hold him for several days without being presented. He fought for that law. But right now, we are doing Kamata Kamata Friday. We have actually gone back to where we started. And the 2010 Constitution was the most consultative constitution-making process in the entire world. It was, and you will read any article and they will tell you. You go to the Library of Congress in the US and you will find the audios and the minutes of what transpired when the constitution process was being made. So it did not start because of 2007. It had been pending for a very long time. From the time when there was the treason trials, I still remember watching Mwite, Anyona, Haminwa being prosecuted. By then it was Philip Murgor was the DPP. I say and those days, I remember sitting in, I was a young lawyer, a student lawyer, and Paul Mwite actually was on the other side. And Paul Mwite was defending the group, the Anyona group. And he read a document which said, Moi started his career in the Legico Council. And Paul Mwite read it and asked, is this sedition? Because that's the document that had been used to arrest one of them and to hold them in detention without trial. So that constitution process, making process, was to cure those problems. Now, before we even implement, and they are now in the Constitution, already
if I may,
we are saying that we require
if
to
I
change
may,
them.
that's exactly what I said in the beginning. The constitutional amendment process has continuously gone on in this country. When Honorable Gladys refers to the fact that the days of Anyona, Dr. Khaminwa, etc., did we not have a constitutional amendment from Kenya being a single party, Section 2A, to becoming a multi-party democracy?
Yeah.
So it's a continuous process. It has continued. So we come to 2005, the people rejected. We are now in 2020, and let it go to a referendum,
and
the BBI.
Yeah, and what's wrong with
amendments? And it has been a continuous process.
Boss, what's wrong with amending the Constitution? I mean,
that's what I'm asking, because it has been 1969 during multi-party democracy. Yes, from a single party to it was first, amended to go from a multi-party to a single party. Then, and we have had these continuous amendments.
But I'm talking about the 2010 Constitution. It's been 10 years.
Yes, why not if the people feel like
I'm not saying that you cannot amend the Constitution at any point in time. Yes, you can. But what we are saying is that when you decide to propose a constitutional amendment, the first thing is let it, if it's a popular initiative, then we would have started to hear people raising those issues until you get to the point of constitutional amendment. So we have said, all I am saying personally, I saw the document 3 days before bombers. Surely you can't give me a month to interrogate it and give my input. You just quickly go and take signatures before we read it. That is a process that one day history is going to speak about. And those are the challenges. Then when you tell me, and I look at the document and I also ask myself, I don't think the people who are drafting it did a review or talk to people. Think of the Ward Development Fund. The Ward Development Fund that is supposed to go to counties, if you see, and it's a bit strange because half the counties in Kenya have implemented the Ward Development Fund. In Uasin Gishu, they get about 20 to 30 million shillings per ward for ward development. If you pass the formula that is being put in the constitutional amendment, they will actually be getting 10 million. So it's much less than they already have. So the counties can't even understand why is it that we are being told that BBI will give more money it will give Ward Development Fund. But this was just to bait the county MCAs to be able to vote for it. When you tell me about help, that you want to put there to give a grace period for 4 years, I have never had a student who says that they have got a job today and they don't want to start the statutory deductions. The issue that makes them not pay is they don't have jobs. So even if you say that you're giving them a grace period for 4 years, I know students who have been at home for 9 to 10 years after graduating without getting a job. So please, we don't need a break from help, we just need jobs. We were promised 800,000 jobs. We have not got those 800,000 jobs.
You're the ones who promised.
When you tell me...
You were part of the people
yes,
promised.
We promised.
Yes, we promised. And that is why it would be wrong for me to be talking about going to throw away more money in a referendum when I haven't met what we told Kenyans to get jobs. On the issue of tax holiday, the Kenyan, for young people, any young person who makes money today has no problem whatsoever paying their taxes. If you have a good economic environment where you make money, people will pay. Let's give the example of some of the COVID billionaires were young people. Yes? There were companies that were 4 months old, which means, would you tell me that person who has gotten those billions for the first time is given a tax break? It's highly unnecessary. I don't know what kind of tax regime you want to promote, because we know that in Kenya, it is possible that you start a company for 4 months, you get a tender of COVID money, you get billions, and most of it is theft. You've supplied PPEs, which are sitting in KEMSA, have not even gone to the ground, and then we want to give you a tax holiday. In fact, our regime currently gives us a tax holiday anyway, because I don't pay tax until the day I make profit. And I believe that once you begin to make profit, then you should pay. In fact, the challenge that we have, I spoke to business people a few weeks ago, and I think there's a new tax regime that has come back. They only sent me the documentation, and they're saying that it's actually affecting the people who employ others. So even if we want to promote employment, so there's been, if we must interrogate this document, why are we in a rush for BBI? What is the urgency at the moment. And when you say that you want to make a constitutional amendment, the people, first of all, currently, the president himself is guilty of defying the Constitution. So how do we believe him that even if he changes the Constitution, he is going to follow it?
How is he guilty?
One, the appointment of the 41 judges. He has refused to appoint them as required by the Constitution. Once JSC approves them, he should appoint them. If he has a problem with the list because there is a report from NIS, then NIS should ensure that the petition goes to the JSC, those judges can be removed. Because those judges are currently sitting either as magistrate or as judges. He has refused to dissolve Parliament despite the advisory, the communique from despite 5 court orders and the communique from Chief Justice Maraga. That is another situation. On the issue of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the Constitution says that functions, yes, can be transferred to central government, but it says it has to be a decision of the county government. And the county government is defined as the governor, all the county assembly members, including the speaker sitting as an ex officio member. That constitutes the county government. So Sonko in himself sitting there had no power to transfer the functions without consulting. In fact, they should have just let the proposal come from and it even includes the county executive committee, which means all the waziris of the county would have sat with the governor, made a proposal, taken it to the county assemblies, debated it, and then the functions can be transferred. So those are two. And so, or is he saying maybe if he changes the Constitution, let another person, his successor, come and follow it? So that is another challenge that we have.
All right.
Okay, I wish to address some of the issues that have been brought up by Honourable Boschele. Tax holidays are always welcomed. In fact, great investment centres or cities are made attractive because of these tax holidays. And it's not true that you pay taxes after profits are made. You make a turnover tax, which estimates how much money you're going to make, and you've got to pay that. So tax holidays are important. She addressed the issue of COVID millionaires. These are COVID crooks, as far as I know, and I think the matter is under investigation as we speak. And as we speak, Ethics and Anti-Corruption, along with ODPP, are in consultations. I think they're in the final stages, from what I hear out there, of making either decisions as to who they're going to charge. So we cannot talk about COVID millionaires and them being given. You don't give tax breaks on criminals. It just doesn't happen like that. With regards to the JSC, I was at the function of the last address of the Honourable the Chief Justice, David Maraga, and he pointed out, and he was very passionate about it, that if the President wanted to uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, he should file a petition to the JSC, this is the President, and for setting up of the tribunal on these particular judges who had been adversely named by, mentioned or security briefs given to the President by NSIS. With all due respect to Honourable Maraga, I was completely befuddled by this statement. The NSIS cannot even report to the Deputy President of this Republic of Kenya. He reports to the Commander-in-Chief, just like of the Republic of Kenya. So do they expect His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta to draft an affidavit, attached to this affidavit NSIS reports? Don't you think, and this is the question that I will ask the Kenyan people, don't you think that those adverse reports were out? I shall tell you something about myself as an advocate and as a member of Parliament. I have made 2 complaints to the JSC, 2 complaints against 2 judicial officers. This is over a year ago. To this date, I have never received an acknowledgement of my complaint. I have never received a progress report on this complaint. If that is me, then what of Wananchi? There is no... people are charged in the Republic of Kenya. They're taken to a court of law. We can all see that they have been charged, isn't it? photographers are there. Why is it that when a complaint has been made against a judicial officer in this country, nobody knows and how many complaints have been made about this judicial officer? And these are the sort of issues that BBI is trying to address when they want an independent ombudsman. My friend Gladys Sholay has been a victim of that same judiciary. And I side with Gladys on the issues that were raised. We know, let's not be politically correct on what is going on in the judiciary today.
Okay, at least you agree on something, ladies. Can we look at some tweets? Do you mind? Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
I know.
Okay. Carlos Bazenga says, if the BBI train is truly an inclusion unity train, why has it left some Kenyans at the station crying for consensus?
Me, I'm one of those left at the train station.
Saying, stop that train. Moses Waleo says, these politicians should understand that we are not their followers, but we only entrust them with the leadership through our votes.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
You agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Brown Sankale, can those pushing for BBI first think of Kenyans who are in pain and suffering in hospitals? Can they give doctors what they want for them to save lives? You listening?
Yes, absolutely.
Frontline workers.
Yes.
Frederick Okango says, it is the will of Kenyan people to get all the desire amended in COK 2010, right? Constitutional case 2010, today and not tomorrow. We must strengthen devolution, enhance two-thirds gender, stop corruption at all. Kenyans can no longer postpone their problems. Is BBI going to solve all of this?
Some of it. That's why I said constitutional making is a continuous process. It doesn't stop at one amendment. I mean, the United States have had their amendments. They had their 13 amendments, which were the Bill of Rights, 11 or 13. Correct. So it's continuous.
By the time I left America, it was
and they're
like
a far much older democracy than we are.
240 years.
Yes.
Bora Collins, BBI train should stop and allow more people on board. Gladys, the seats are enough for all of us. Why the hurry? Why leave others out? If really it is genuinely about unity, no one should talk about Meli.
Kungoa nanga na milango kufungwa.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
You're also challenging Kiswahili like Jennifer. You private school kids, huh?
No, it's just the accent. It's Doctari instead of Doctari.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Ometa Yusuf, BBI has no constitutional timelines, no need for hurry and all. It ain't a priority in the prevailing circumstances. Kenya needs to focus on pressing needs that affect the people. Bread and butter issues.
Yeah.
Right?
And bread and butter issues.
This hurry, again, I ask you, what's the hurry?
It's the election. The next election.
2022.
Are we going to go into another cycle of violence? Giving you the statistics that I gave you of 2007,
but who said we're going to have
2009. Because we had 2007. The only in between was 2012-2013 election. So looking back and at the patterns, we must assume that there will be. There was violence in was it the 2017 election?
Okay, Mwando Vickery. Corruption is the recurrent risk that continues to destroy the economy. Corruption erodes the moral fabric of society.
I agree. We agree.
Violates the social and economic rights of the vulnerable, undermines democracy, subverts the rule of law, retards development.
Exactly.
BBI is the cure for this, Vickery says.
Okay.
All right. Jay Odochie, we have a lot of expectations as Kenyans and we cannot do away with a simple task ahead of us. Let's solve everything step by step in a sober manner.
Great advice. Great advice.
David Ochola says, JKLive asked Honorable Gladys Sholay, when did she and her team realize that young people have no jobs? When did they realize doctors are in need? When did they realize the economy is not doing well? Yet they have been in government for 8 years now.
I'll answer you on that one.
Answer now.
We get the economy had been doing well. It's somewhere from, I think, started going around from 2018, to end of 2018 towards 2019.
Right after the handshake, huh?
Yes.
Right after the handshake.
We got statistics. Actually, the last ones were posted.
Because of the resistance.
They were posted in April. in April, we had lost 1.7 million jobs. This is from the, I think, from the statistics,
because of
government
that,
statistics.
the usual election cycle.
No, this was
It just
April.
supports, yes, but it doesn't happen in one day that you wake up and people have lost
all of it was
the usual
COVID-related.
election.
All
2018.
The ones, no, I'm talking about the ones.
Okay.
20, this year,
this year,
April, we already had lost 1.7 million jobs.
Yeah.
Right now, there's more have been lost actually. So yes, there is indeed a bigger crisis. And also remember that majority of the kids go to school in private schools, not the high-end private schools, but there is the middle level to lower income private schools. And those schools were a big business in our communities. They hired teachers, they hired groundsmen, they hired people to work in the school, they got caterers, people who supplied food and so on. Those and now they are required to continue paying rent, yet they have no students. So even just the closure of schools, you know the way TSC is big in Kenya, the teachers are a big voting bloc, it just tells you the education industry is one of our biggest main business.
And your point is, I mean, it's all corona related, isn't it?
Yes, and that is why when you have a pandemic, I'll give you an example. When someone is sick in your family, what does the family do? They channel all resources to the sick person. We sell our cars, we sell our land, we sell everything. We deplete our savings to treat the person who is sick in the family. And that is what is happening to a lot of families. But Kenya is like a family. Right now, we have people who are dying. We must channel all our resources first to save lives. Because even if you have that referendum, who is going to follow that constitution if we've lost half our young population? And if we've lost all our doctors that we have spent many years training?
Yeah.
Why don't we use that money, instead of making our doctors work for 72 hours, why don't we have 2,000 doctors are here who are unemployed? Why don't we even prioritize employing those doctors so that they can go into the system?
This family you're talking about called Kenya, is it dysfunctional?
Yes, we're having challenges, yes. I mean, everyone can see it. Ask anyone on the street.
DJ
And then, Jeff, you know, the issue that everyone seems to say there's going to be election violence in 2022. The way I've seen Kenyans this time, they've matured. When there was the elections, the by-elections in Kibra, there was a time, there was no way somebody like the deputy president or Jubilee could enter Kibra, and or Jubilee could field a candidate. It was extremely difficult. But remember, when what was being done, Raila Odinga was on one side of Kibra having a rally. The Deputy President William Ruto landed in a chopper and had a rally. They didn't fight. There was no fight.
It's one thing of a deputy president with his security details.
A few months ago, when the Deputy President went to Kisii, many people said that there's going to be violence. It was the most peaceful rally. So Kenyans have matured. Let us not think that Kenyans no longer... Look even what happened at Kenol. It was stage managed, but within no time, people calmed down and everything.
People died.
People died, yeah.
People
Kenyans have, I think, let's not think that Kenya is the Kenya of 2007.
They did.
People died in Kenol.
DJ Babudi says, I don't think the point of a referendum is to flex muscles.
Yes.
It's a platform to give citizens a chance to make a choice. If the choice is yes, then you implement it.
And if it's no, exactly. It's not a competition. Exactly. Thank you.
Did you just finish my tweet? Really? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Ladies, closing thoughts going forward. Jamhuri Day week, 57 years later. Are we disappointed? Let me start with you.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Well, we are 57 years later.
Hope deferred makes the heart sick. If I were disappointed in my country, I could have left. I could have left 5 years ago, 10 years ago, immigrated and gone where? Somewhere. I'm not disappointed. Why would I be disappointed in my country? Do I get upset about certain issues? Of course I do. Do certain things anger me? Of course they do. Do you think that when I open the papers and read about these COVID millionaires and this corruption, on and on and on and on, I'm not frustrated? Of course I am. There's lots of things, but why are we cannot, as leaders, say that we're disappointed and we've given up. That's why we are leaders. And in whatever we have been called to do, we make the little we can do to make that change. And it's an incremental change. So I'm not disappointed. Yeah.
Okay, well put. Boss, you get the final word.
Yes, I'm disappointed. Many things that could be better, but I am hopeful. And when I'm hopeful, I also act by speaking up and pointing out the things that are not right. And I also speak up on what I want corrected. So I just don't sit back and clap my hands. I must say something, and that's why I speak.
And by the way, keep doing that, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you for having us once
again.
Thank you
very
very
much. You guys are, you speak from the heart, you know that?
Thank you.
Men speak from the head, so they pretend. You guys, women speak from the heart.
They do. They really do.
Which is
they
honest.
really do.
Which is honest.
Yes.
Happy Jamhuri Day to you both.
Thank you. Same to you,
and
Jeff.
Happy holidays.
Same to you, Jeff.
Right,
and let's continue to hold the country in prayer.
Let's do that.
With this
let's do
COVID.
that.
Yes,
and thank you so much for joining us, folks. Your tweets have been fantastic. Your comments, your feedback. Thank you for being a part of those 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other. JKL. Have a great Jamhuri Day weekend. Goodbye, good luck. God bless Kenya. Thank you, ladies. Good job.
Thank you. That was cool.